Hello YouTube, my name is Billy and welcome back to my kitchen. I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. First thing I want to showcase is my new KitchenAid much larger food processor. This was a gift from my sister, and she's also one of my followers, and she's always hearing about how small my tiny little food processor is. So I want to give my sister a big shout out for this because it's much needed and I'm very excited about it. Unfortunately, I won't be using it tonight for tonight's dinner, but let's go ahead and get started. Tonight's video is going to be a start, and for the whole week we're going to be doing much lighter dishes. You know, Thanksgiving is over. And so is Christmas, and so, you know, the New Year's is coming up, and it's time to get rid of some of this Christmas holiday pudge. I've never been one that gets on a diet, just mostly because I'm not a picky eater, and throughout the year I change what I eat to accommodate what I need. You know, if I'm where I want to be and I'm comfortable, then, you know, I'll eat whatever I want. But the holidays are over. I've got a little more than I want, so I'm going to show you some really easy ways to get some really protein-packed dishes and some lighter dishes that, you know, still have a lot of flavor and are really good. Tonight we're doing Chilean sea bass. We're gonna bake that, and I'm gonna do baked zucchini. I'm also gonna do fried zucchini for my pickier eaters, and I'm also gonna roast some vegetables. Before I get started, when you are buying fresh vegetables and you grab these little bags, when you get home, take them out. And the reason you want to do that is because when you leave your vegetables in these little sacks, they sweat. And when they sweat, they mildew. And when they mildew, well, you can't eat them. So you wasted your money. Same thing with potatoes. When you get a big giant bag of potatoes, take them out of that bag and just, you know, I just got a bowl and I just just dump them out, because those potatoes will sit in there, they'll sweat, they'll, you know, a couple days, they're just gonna start smelling like a dirty gym sock or something. It's really unpleasant. When you take them out of the bag, they last a really long time and they don't get the moisture in there. Now, I've already preheated the oven to 400 degrees, and we're gonna do the asparagus, my baked zucchini, and the sea bass in there as well. We're also gonna do a Caesar salad, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that and get that out of the way. Take romaine lettuce, cut the end off, and just, I go about every inch. And then lengthwise. Grab a bowl, toss it in. Kind of toss that around so you get the green and the stalk kind of evenly. All right, now I don't put my dressing on until I'm ready to serve, but I always take a little bit of Parmesan cheese and just kind of dust it with that, and that's to taste, or you can skip that altogether. Okay, and We like our salad pretty cold, so I'm just gonna put that back in the fridge until it's ready to serve. Okay, now for the fried zucchini, you're gonna get a medium-sized skillet. Put some oil in there. I use canola. You could use whatever you want. Medium heat. You're just gonna let that get hot, and then let's see. Now for the way I do my zucchini and squash when I fry it, I like to go lengthwise on my cuts. That's just a personal preference. You could just slice them in rings, batter them and fry them, but this is just the way I like to do it. All right, now I'm gonna peel that. When you fry the zucchini or squash lengthwise, you kind of want to get some that are kind of pretty uniform in shape. Otherwise, it may not work so well. Okay, and what I do is I take a sharp knife and cut right in the middle, and then I go lengthwise. And you want to cut them pretty thin, about maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more, but not too much. Otherwise, they won't get done all the way through. And that's about what you want right there. Okay, now I'm gonna set those aside. Now you're gonna want a plate of flour and a bowl. You're gonna put just an egg and a splash of milk and just whisk that up. And I'm gonna set that aside for now. Now I like to season my vegetables before I do all that. So I'm just gonna grab another little bowl. And you could use whatever you want, salt, pepper. This right here, I make this myself, and it's really simple. It's and I always keep a pretty large amount stored up because I use it on a lot. It's 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of ground black pepper, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, and if you want things a little spicier, you could do about a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then I just kind of work that around with a spoon or my hands just until it's all incorporated really well. And this is really good. It's really versatile. You can use this on fish or anything, you know, and it's really amazing. All right, and then I'm just going to lightly sprinkle some of my little seasonings on those and just let those sit while we're getting everything else ready. Okay, now for the asparagus. I'm the only one eating asparagus tonight, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that. And take your rubber bands off too. Take them out of the bag, take them out of all that. Let them rest. And they can stay out on a counter. That's fine. They'll last longer and you're not wasting your money. Okay, I take about 1 inch of the ends off. And then I just lay those out on a baking dish. Very simple. And then right before I pop these in the oven, I'm just gonna baste those with a little bit of olive oil and a drizzle of balsamic vinegar, and they're going to go in for 10 or 15 minutes, just until they're tender. All right, now for my squash, or for my zucchini, I'm not peeling mine. I like the skin, so I'm not going to take it off. And I'm just going to cut mine in nice little rings. Again, you don't want them too thick. The fish that we're doing is the Chilean sea bass, and it doesn't really take a long time. So I want all of this to go in the oven at the same time, so it cooks really quick. Okay, and again, I'm just gonna set that aside while all right, I'm just gonna take a little baking dish. I'm gonna take a stick of butter, not the whole stick. That wouldn't be very healthy now, would it? Okay. All right, and I'm just gonna kind of go all over this pan, just so they don't stick. You just kind of coat it. If you have spray, you could use spray, but I don't buy those sprays, you know. And I don't use margarine either. It may have less fat than real butter, but it's not healthier. It's definitely not healthier. You don't really have to be afraid of your natural animal fats, like your fish and your, you know, whatever meats. Your natural animal fats are not the ones that are bad for you. It's all that processed stuff. That's what's bad for you. And I'm just gonna lay these out on just a little baking dish. Okay, and I'm gonna use my same seasoning mix, and I'm just gonna get a light coating on that. You could just do salt and pepper, or you don't have to do anything. Rinse my hands. Okay, and I'm just gonna set that aside. Now, I'm gonna put a little bit of foil over the top of that. Just so it kind of steams and stays moist while it's cooking. And this doesn't take very long at all. Okay, now, for our fish. Fish and seafood scare a lot of people because, you know, it's easy to go out to eat and order that. And then, you know, you get home and you're thinking, God, I will never be able to cook something like that. And actually, you would be wrong, because fish and seafood are some of the easiest things to cook. And most of the time, depending on what you're doing, they don't take very long at all. I mean, if you're in a really big hurry, fish is one of your best options because it's so versatile. You can grill it, you can bake it, you can steam it, you can smoke it. You know, you can pan fry it, and it's just minutes. You know. Now, the Chilean sea bass. If you've watched my videos, you will know that I've mentioned this before. This is probably one of my absolute favorite cuts of fish ever. This is not by any means a cheap piece of fish. About $30 a pound, but it's really good. It's really thick, it's really hearty, it's packed with flavor. It's got this really, these are huge fish. And it's got this wonderful skin on it. I personally love the skin, and it's got a wonderful flavor. If you like fish flavor, this is a wonderful piece of fish to work with. Now, I will tell you, this has some very small but incredibly sharp bones. So be very careful. You can order, when you go to your seafood counter, you can tell them to cut you a strip that does not have the bones in it. And if you're not used to eating this, I would probably go that route. I'm not, because I know to look for them, and the flavor is awesome. Now, I don't leave these whole. I cut these into smaller sections because this is such a big, thick piece of fish. And you want it to cook evenly and quickly. This is about a pound, and I just cut this in about 4 smaller sections. It just makes it easier to work with. Wash my hands. Now, what I like to do is I get a baking sheet and I line that with foil. Get a butter knife. Get some more foil. Okay, you're gonna take very thin slices of butter. And lay them down about the center. And you don't need a lot, you just need a little bit, a couple of shavings. Okay, you're gonna take your fish, skin side down, set it on top. Well, I'm gonna go that way. Normally I would go skin side down, but these are thicker, so I'm gonna just lay them to where they're thinnest, just so they cook evenly. And again, I'm just gonna use my little seasoning. This is really versatile and it's really good. You get your onion flavor, you get your garlic, you get your smoky flavor from the smoked paprika. And we don't use a lot of seasoning on this fish because the fish itself has a really good flavor. Really good. Okay. Lay that down. Do another there. Okay. And lay that down. Just give it a little pat, just so it holds its place, and then just kind of lightly sprinkle over the top, and that's it. All right, let me rinse my hands again. Now all you're gonna do with that is you're gonna wrap it in the foil. Carefully, you kind of want it tight, so I like to go get that up there on the ends. kind of, and then I like to pull these longer ends together. Okay, and then you're gonna pull them together, and then you're just gonna kind of tightly kind of roll them up together. Okay, and it kind of creates this nice little pouch, and they kind of steam inside of these little packets, and it cooks the fish really well. The Chilean sea bass is a very thick, hearty fish. I wouldn't compare it to, oh, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's good. Okay. And you want to just roll that up kind of tightly. Do it smoothly though, like when you're rolling it, you know, kind of flatten it out, because that way whenever these come out of the oven, they're going to be hot, and you want to make sure that it's easy to open without burning yourself. Okay, so we're going to just set that over here by the oven. So we've got the fish, my squash, and now for the asparagus. Very simple. Get a little bowl, or you don't even really have to do that. I do like to do that. Okay. Get a basting brush. And coat your brush really well. Now when you're basting your asparagus, don't forget these little floret parts, because those tend to burn if they're not oiled. This is just olive oil. You could use butter, but olive oil is a better option, so that's what we're doing. But you just want to coat them just so they cook, but they don't get burnt. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and we're just going to drizzle that. You don't need a lot, just kind of, because the flavor is really intense. And I am kind of wanting something a little salty flavor tonight, so I'm actually even going to coat these with a little Parmesan cheese. You don't need a lot. Okay. Okay, all of this, okay, now this is not going to go in the oven at the same time because it's not only going to take about 10 minutes. Now your fish, slide right in, zucchini, right in, 20 minutes. And that's it. Okay, now that we've only got about 10 or 11 minutes on the fish and the zucchini, I'm going to go ahead and start our fried zucchini. We're going to take that and the flour, roll it around. Dunk it in your egg wash and then back in your flour. All right, you're gonna drop that in your oil. You can stop. Okay, Once we have all of our zucchini in the skillet, and you're just gonna fry that until all sides are completely golden brown and there's a nice little crispy crunch on them. You're gonna toss those. You could just use a fork. One of the reasons I like to do the long strips compared to the little round pieces, because these flip a lot easier. So, but we're gonna go ahead and turn that off because those are almost done. And then you'll just lay those out on a paper towel to drain for just a second, and you can, you know, sprinkle a little bit of salt over that while they're cooling down. Now the timer went off for the zucchini and the fish, so I'm going to check the zucchini first. Make sure that it's on the right. Oh yeah, that's good. That's perfect. I'm going to leave that on there. And I'm also going to, I know the fish is done because I've cooked this fish quite a lot, but I'm going to check it anyway. And I'm also going to pop in our asparagus, and that only takes a few minutes, like 10 to 12 at the most. Now I'm going to take my mittens off just because my hands are used to a lot of heat, so it doesn't really bother me, but still be careful just because it is hot. Now when you start opening these, be very careful because it's going to start releasing that steam. And steam burns are incredibly painful. Look at that. That's perfect. The smell is amazing. It's a very rich, thick, white, hearty flavor, and this is one of my favorite cuts of fish. Okay, and that's done. But I'm gonna leave these open, and I'm just gonna pop those back in the oven for about 10 minutes, just long enough for the asparagus to finish and just to keep them hot. All right, before I cut this section of the video, I want to talk about your pot holders. When you're working with these mittens or these, do not allow these to get wet. Do not leave these next to your sink or lay them on a counter where there's maybe a little puddle of water. And the reason for that is safety. Was when you get these wet and then you put them on and you go over there to your 400-degree oven and grab a hold of a hot pan, that moisture turns to steam. And you can get a very, very painful, nasty steam burn that way. So that's it. Okay, the asparagus is done. Now that may, okay, sorry about that mild little interruption. I don't know who designed this complex, but if you noticed, I have 2 smoke detectors right above the kitchen. So anytime I open my oven, they automatically go off. So, but anyway, back to what I was saying. Now, when you're using the balsamic vinegar and your asparagus, this right here actually looks like it's burnt, but it's not. That black stuff is actually just your balsamic vinegar. And hand me my plate. Okay. So you usually use tongs or whatever, and just put those on a plate.
You can stop.
Okay, now, if you're not used to working with fish, you are gonna know these are done just by touching them. They're still hot, so be careful. It should be firm and very flaky, and it should just, like, you see how that is just almost falling apart? It's perfect. That's all you need.